Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you some books that are on my shelves that I want to see if I'm gonna like because I have read one other book by that author. So I know that that might have sounded a little bit confusing, but hopefully this is gonna make sense. I'm trying to make this make sense. But basically, what I want to talk about today is books that I have only read one book by an author, and then I went out and I bought more books by that author, and I have no idea if I'm going to like them or not. If I just like that one book, or if I actually like the author as a writer. We'll see. You'll understand as we get into this a little bit more. So let's start with a middle grade. I have one middle grade author that is only middle grade to share with you. And that author is Christopher Paul Curtis. I have read Bud Not Buddy by Christopher Paul Curtis, but I also own The Mighty Miss Malone and the Watsons Go to Birmingham 1963. I think bought this one first because a lot of people had talked about it. I think it's a Newbery, yeah, this one's a Newbery Honor winner. And I think Bud Not Buddy is a Newbery winner. I think my kids are screaming. Who's surprised? Mighty Miss Malone is a companion to this, but these are not related. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I really enjoyed Bud Not Buddy. I thought it was a really, really great book. It's set in the 1930s, I believe, and it's about a little black boy that is trying to find his dad. Anyway, we are introduced to Mighty Miss Malone in this. This takes off with Mighty Miss Malone. Watsons Go to Birmingham 1963 is about a family that is traveling from Michigan down to Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, and come up some of the racial things that they face along the way. So I want to see if Christopher Paul Curtis is an author that I like, or if this is the only book that I like by him. All right. I hope that this is making sense now. So the next author, the book that I have read is a middle grade, and that is A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. I've actually read A Boy Called Christmas and The Girl Who Saved Christmas. There's a third book in the series that I have not read yet, but I want to. I will read it this upcoming December. But after I read this and really enjoyed it, Matt Haig was put on my radar, and so I picked up How to Stop Time. This is an adult novel that is about a man. I think he is a teacher, but he can stop time. He's lived for centuries, and a captivating French teacher at his school is fascinated by him, but the secretive group basically their like overarching group that protects him tells him he's not allowed to fall in love, and so he has to basically decide, does he fall in love or does he continue living forever? I've heard good things about that one though, so I'm really excited to read it. But I picked it up because I had read A Boy Called Christmas. All right, moving on. The next one is another middle grade book that I read, and that is Until Tomorrow, Mr. Marsworth by Sheila OConnor. This is like one of my favorite middle grades of all time. Set during the Vietnam War, and it's so good. Love that one. But I also picked up Sparrow Road, which is another middle grade book by Sheila OConnor. And this, I'm not really sure what this is about. Summer before 7th grade, and her mother suddenly takes a job hours from home. I really don't know. So we'll see how I like that one. But then in addition to that, I went and I saw Sheila OConnor speak this past fall at the Twin Cities Book Festival, and there I heard her talk about her new book, Evidence of V, which is an adult novel that is basically half nonfiction and half fiction, but it is told from what she has learned from her maternal grandmother, I believe. It's set in the 1930s in Minneapolis, and it basically deals with the practice of putting sexually promiscuous girls in insane asylums, and how all of those records are sealed, and she had to go through all of this stuff to get these records unsealed so she could learn about her grandmother. And then she filled in the gaps with fiction stuff, but it's kind of told in dossier form. So there's different like pictures and documents in here, but then also story as well. I'm super, super excited to read this. Actually, one of my book clubs is reading it this month, so I should probably read it this month. But anyway, I picked that up because I loved Until Tomorrow, Mr. Marsworth so much. All right, moving on. Now we're into all adult novels. Who'da thunk it? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more to go through. So who even am I? All right. The next one I want to talk about is Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. I read this. I really, really like this. I know it gets mixed reviews, but I really, really liked it. And this is about, what's her name? Bernadette, but then what's her daughter's name? I forget. I think it's B. Yeah. B wants her family to go to Antarctica, and Bernadette basically has a complete psychotic breakdown. It's fantastic. I really liked it. But after I read that, I found at a thrift store Today Will Be Different by Maria Semple. This one does not have very good reviews. After I bought it, I looked. However, the premise of it seems really interesting to me. And it's basically about this mom who keeps telling herself that like today will be different, and then life happens and it's not. So that sounds good, but like I said, I've seen very, very mixed things on that. All right, next I have Molokai by Alan Brenner. I read this a few months ago and I loved this book. It is a chunker to get through. It's super, super small text. It's a trudge to get through, but it is so informative. I learned so much reading this book, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I really, really loved it. After I read that, I recently picked up, this is kind of a sneak peek to a book haul that is coming, but I picked up Daughter of Molokai, which is the second book in this. It's like a companion to this. None of these are really series. A couple of them are companion, but nothing is a series. So I picked this up, but then I also had previously picked up Honolulu by Alan Brenner, which is not related to either of these at all. This is about picture brides in 1914 coming to Hawaii. So I'm very interested to see how I will like more of Alan Brenner's work, because I really, really enjoyed Molokai. Another like historical fiction book that I really liked is The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. This is one that I read a number of years ago. It is a biblical fiction, so it follows the story of Dinah in the Bible, who was the daughter of Jacob, maybe? I'm not going to remember now. Anyway, I think it was Jacob. And you don't really hear very much about her in the Bible, and so this basically takes her story and runs with it. Loved this book so much, and I recently picked up, another sneak peek, is The Boston Girl by Anita Diamant, and this is one that I honestly don't really know what this is about, but I do know that April from Getting Hooga With It talks about it a lot, and I think it's kind of not a coming of age, but it's about this woman basically figuring herself out. I don't know. We'll see. Anita Diamant is a Jewish writer. She writes a lot of Jewish fiction. All right, the next one that I have here is a fairly prolific writer, but I've only ever read one thing by her, and I really, really loved it, and that is Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain. This book, you guys, is probably one of my favorite books ever. It deals with the topic of eugenics in North Carolina in the 1960s, and it follows a girl with epilepsy. I think she's 15 years old in this, and then a social worker. So you get the dual perspectives from the two of them. It is fantastic. This really, for me, really honed in on the very morally gray area surrounding eugenics, and what's right and what's wrong, and how, I don't know, it was just so good. So this I loved. It was historical fiction. But I also have two other books that I own by Diane Chamberlain that I have not read yet. The first of which is The Secret Life of Cece Wilkes. Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library just talked about this book. But it says in 1977, a pregnant woman disappeared. 20 years later, her remains are discovered, and Timothy Gleason is charged with murder. And then Cece Wilkes knows how she died. The woman had died because she was there. I don't know. Sounds good though. It has a cute little redhead on the front. And then I also have The Dream Daughter, which a ton of people have been reading and really, really loving lately. And I really, really, really want to read this. This is about a woman who is pregnant, and she finds out that her child, it has some sort of birth defect that they don't have the cure for. It's like set in the 1970s, I think. And then she comes across a doctor, I think it might be her brother-in-law or something, I don't remember now, her brother-in-law, who finds, and he basically tells her he can time travel into the future, and she's able to get help for her child, I think. I don't know. But everybody that has been reading this has been loving it. So I want to know if Diane Chamberlain is an author I love, or if I just loved Necessary Lies. Next, I have As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meisner. This is the only Susan Meisner I've ever read. Since then, I have purchased 2 more. Once again, these are more books that I have not featured in a haul yet. Secrets of a Charmed Life. This is set in the 1940s in England, so this has to do with World War II. And also A Bridge Across the Ocean. So this is post-World War II. Both of these have dual timelines, present day and 1940s. So that'll be interesting because this was just the one. So it'll be interesting to see what I think about more of Susan Meisner's work. All right. And then these last 2 I have, oh, I lied. I do have more middle grade. We'll save that one for last. I only have 2 more. But I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and that is the only Kristen Hanna I've ever read. And I also own Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I also have Home Again by Kristen Hanna. I really want to read The Great Alone and Winter Garden. Those are the 2 of hers that have really sparked my interest the most. But I picked up Home Again probably at a library book sale or something. I honestly have no idea what this one's about, but this one has to do with Russia, World War II Russia, I believe. This sounds super good to me. So we'll see. I enjoyed The Nightingale. I didn't love it as much as most people did, but I did really enjoy it. So we'll see how I do with Kristen Hanna. And then the last one that I have here, I read last year, The War That Saved My Life and the War I Finally Won by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. And then recently I picked up Jeffersons Sons by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. And this has to do with Thomas Jefferson's sons by his slave. So Beverly, Harriet, Madison, and Eston are his children by one of his slaves, Sally Hemings. And while they do get special treatment, they are still slaves, and are never to mention who their father is. So it's about them. So I am very excited for this because I loved The War That Saved My Life. It was so, so, so good. So it'll be interesting to see what more of her work, if I enjoy it. So those are all the books that I could come up with that I own, that I have purchased specifically because I liked one other book. We're basing all of these purchases off of one book a piece, whatever, for the author. So anyway, I hope that this video made sense, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you read any of the books that I've talked about today, I would love to hear your opinions of them down below, whether it's the books that I've read and loved, or the books that I've picked up. I'd like to hear your opinions about either or. Other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe, and until next time, see ya!